Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the FOREVERNESS podcast. We are David Giraldo behind the cameras, Pedro Juan Gironés, and myself. And we are super excited today to come with us with José Luis Cordeiro, no other than José Luis Cordeiro, who is a very renowned author in different topics, such as transhumanist, and the big topic, the death of death, immortality, extreme longevity. I'm gonna give just a very brief introduction of Jose Luis, and then we get right to it. Jose Luis is an engineer by MIT. He also studied in Georgetown, had an MBA in SEAD, had different postdoctoral stations at MIT and different other universities. He has been an advisor to the United Nations and to many different companies in different sectors. But yeah, he's famous for being author of very interesting books regarding these topics: economist, futurist, transhumanist. Jose Luis, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure to be with both of you to talk about life and the future.
That's wonderful. Jose Luis, we have the first question that we wanted to ask you. It's a very broad topic. The main thing is, which was the point? I think a lot of people will know you already. There are many interviews on you. You have collaborated in different documentaries, different places. Your voice is a very well known voice in these topics. When was the moment, or what made you be interested follow this immortality or this death, this fighting against death?
Well, I have been a futurist all my life. As an engineer from MIT, I was interested in the future, all the technologies of the future. But it was about 15 years ago when I was at Singularity University as one of the founding faculty, where I was teaching about energy, renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy, electric vehicles, and all of these new technologies. And some of my colleagues at Singularity University were talking about immortality. And I was not quite sure it was possible, but then suddenly the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2012 was to a Japanese scientist. His name is Shinya Yamanaka, that discovered that aging is reversible. That to me was incredible. To me, this is the most fantastic advance in all of science, that aging can be controlled. Aging can be accelerated. I don't recommend it. It can be stopped, or even better, it can be reversed. So the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2012 to me was incredible. And that is what made me more and more interested in longevity. And also because I began to age. Well, we have been aging almost since we are born, but once you pass age 40, you begin to feel it worse. So that was the combination of factors. And then finally, my father died. And then I moved from California to Spain. And I began taking all of these ideas into Spain. And that was my turning point between 2012 with the Nobel Prize in Medicine and my transition to Spain in 2014.
That's
That's
awesome. Just curious, because now that you mentioned Yamanaka, he won the Nobel Prize for the Yamanaka factors. No, it's the call. Can you explain for people who may not be familiar with the topic, the broad ideas of his discoveries, of his research?
Yes, this was a monumental discovery because we normally talk about the genome. The genome is our genes, how our genes make us what we are. Our eyes, our hair, everything is in our genome. But not only there is the genome, there is the epigenome. Epi comes from Greek, it means above. So epigenome is above the genome. And it means that the genes can be on or off at different stages in our life, or at different parts of the body in different ways. For example, the genome is the same throughout our body, but it is expressed differently. It has a different epigenome in the eyes or in the heart or in the skin. That is why we have eyes and hearts, the skin and muscles, because even though the genome is the same, the epigenome is different. The same with the passage of time. Our genome is the same since the time we are born, when we are middle age, or when we are old age. So if the genome is the same, why sometimes we are young and sometimes we are old? And the answer is the epigenome. And the biologist Shinya Yamanaka discovered that there are basically at that time 4 genes that control the aging process, and that you can put them on and off and have different ages. You could actually have age 20 in a different arrangement of the Yamanaka genes or Yamanaka factors, or age 60, or age 80, or age 100. So aging can be modified just switching on and off certain genes. And also cells can be transformed from neuron, a brain cell, into a heart cell or a muscle cell, just changing some genes. And this is revolutionary. It changed to me the whole concept of medicine and biology. And that is why I myself have been involved in this, because of Shinya Yamanaka discovering genes that can be on and off and change the age of the cell, and then the organ, and then the whole body.
Okay. So that was, the beginning of understanding the aging processes. In your book, you talk about all of the different aging processes. But a question that we have is, was there a moment in which you realize, okay, this is an actual possibility to defeat death?
Well, that was the proof. The proof is that you can change the biological age of any cell. He did it at the cell level, but then another friend, David Sinclair, who is an Australian biologist, who is a professor now at Harvard and a researcher at Harvard, he did it with one organ. His students managed to rejuvenate the eyes of mice. All of these experiments are done first on mice, because mice are mammals, and all mammals share 90% of the genome. And mice live very short lives, like 2 years, 2 years and a half, maybe 3 years. So we can see if they are living longer. So David Sinclair and his students at Harvard did this with the eyes of mice, and mice that were blind because they had eyes about age 80 human years. They were turned back to age 20 human years, the eyes. And so they could see again. Last year, in 2025, they were able to do this with monkey eyes. And the eyes who were blind could see again. And this year, 2026, they just began human clinical trials with 21, I think, humans who are basically blind because of age, diseases like macular degeneration, glaucoma, and other diseases of age, and they are probably going to see by next year. This is truly, truly fascinating. And after testing with eyes, and I repeat, mice eyes, monkey eyes, and then human eyes, they are beginning to work on other organs, on kidneys, livers, hearts, lungs, skin, and then brain as well. So this is truly, truly fascinating, and it is happening right now. While we talk, the first human clinical trials for eye rejuvenation are happening. So this will change everything. What makes me upset is that people are not aware of these incredible discoveries. People don't know about this. And even something even more frustrating is cancer, because cancer to me is the perfect disease. Cancer cells are cells that stop aging. Cancer cells become immortal, they stop aging. And we have known this since 1951, a long, long time, when scientists discovered with a patient called Henrietta Langs that cancer cells don't age. Cancer cells keep on growing, reproducing, have some food to eat. And those cancer cells from Henrietta Lacks, who died in 1951, are alive today, even though Henrietta Lacks was born in 1920 and she died in 1951 at age 31. Her cells are alive with 100 years, but they behave like teenagers. They reproduce continuously, they grow continuously. And that is how we discovered that cancer cells are mutant cells that stop aging. And this is basically the common thing in all cancers. Cancer cells stop aging in all cancers, in all persons, in all organs, in all animals. So immortality is not that complicated because this is what cancer does. Cancer stops aging and cancer becomes biologically immortal. So now that we can sequence the genome of the cancer cells and compare to the normal cells, we are discovering how cancer becomes immortal. This is incredible time. This is the best time to be alive.
I have a few notes on what you said. First of all, because before we forget, you mentioned Dave Sinclair. I think his work is something that people should learn about, because he has his own lab at Harvard. I think it's called Sinclair Laboratory or something of the like. He's been working for I believe decades, and he's done some amazing work regarding brains. In some videos, you can see how he has cultivated, is the word, brain cells and small brains in his lab, and they can I think they can twist the aging process of this brain. So it's something promising. His work is becoming more and more famous lately. We are trying to get him also on the podcast. We would love to be able to interview him. And yes, that's just one note about Dave, and a few other things that you mentioned. Um, because in your book you mentioned about different species that age differently, even different cells within our own body have different paces of aging. So my question for you would be, if someone tells you that aging is something natural, what would be your answer?
Well, I could say that aging is something natural, but immortality is also something even more natural. And let's go back to the beginning of life in the planet. About 4 billion years ago, when life appeared, it was biologically immortal. The first life forms of the planet didn't age. They were basically immortal. These were small bacteria with round chromosomes. These round chromosomes did not have a beginning and an end, as opposed to our chromosomes, the human chromosomes that are normally like X or Y. Our chromosomes have a beginning and an end. And at the end of the chromosomes is something called telomeres. Telomeres get shorter and shorter when cells divide. And that is why we age, the cells age. And at some point, the telomeres are so short that the cells cannot divide anymore. This is called the Hayflick limit, because there is a limit, a number of times when cells can divide, when these cells have telomeres. But the first life forms, these small bacteria with round chromosomes, did not have telomeres, and they did not age. They did not age. They were biologically immortal in the sense that they did not age. And it's very logical to understand. When life first appeared, it wanted to live. If it appeared, was to be alive, not to die. So there was no aging yet. Aging appeared after more than 3 billion years of history, because multicellular organisms appeared. And then there were two types of cells: germ cells for reproductions that still do not age, and somatic cells, body. So somatic cells that make the body that do age. So somatic cells, when they appeared about between 600 and 800 million years ago, they did have aging. But germ cells that we still have today, they don't age. Even today, we have immortal cells, germ cells that are born immortal. And then cancer cells that become immortal because they don't want to age. I mean, cells don't want to age. That is why cancer cells stop aging. So to go back to your question, immortality is also natural. In fact, during the longest time in the history of the planet, over 3 billion years, there was no death. There was no programmed death. There was basically biological immortality. So there are immortal cells, even from almost 4 billion years ago, if some of these original primitive bacteria are still alive. But one more thing is that even today, there are some small organisms that do not age. There are immortal jellyfish. And this is truly fascinating because some jellyfish age and some jellyfish do not age. And now, again, that we can read the genome, some scientists are discovering which are the genes that stop aging in the immortal jellyfish. This is incredible. And there are other animals that don't age. For example, hydras, which are also some small animals, they don't age. Or even lobsters. Lobsters are really incredible. Lobsters do not age biologically. They don't age. What happens is that lobsters keep on growing, and every year they have to change, obviously, their body because they keep on growing, right? And when they change their cover, they can be attacked, or they can get a virus or a bacteria and they might die, or a rock falls on their head or something and then they die, or they get an infection. But again, lobsters do not age biologically. They are immortal in that sense, but they keep on growing. Talking about different lifespans within mammals, because mammals, we are 90% equal. There are some mammals like a small mice, some shrews, some small mice that live 2 years. And there are whales, big whales that live 200 years, 200. So we are in the middle. We are not 2 years and we are not 200 years. So now again, scientists are discovering why some mice live 2 years and some whales live 200 years. If we go outside of mammals, then we have even more lifespans. We have some flies, some small mosquitoes that live 1 day. The May flies, they live 1 day. And then we have sharks, the Greenland sharks that live up to 500 years. We have clams, also some clams that live over 500 years. And if we go outside animals, and remember, immortal jellyfish, immortal hydras, etc. So there are immortal animals, but also with plants. With plants, we have plants that live thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The Bodhi tree, where Buddha was enlightened, or its direct descendant, is over 2,000 years old. And in California, there are sequoia trees of 5,000 years of age. And I am now in the Balearic Islands in Spain, in the Mediterranean Sea. There are algae here of over 100,000 years of age. 100,000 years, and they are fine, these algae. So, life
I didn't know about that. I knew about the Greenland shark, but I didn't know about such an old algae.
Yes, in front of the Balearic Islands. And also there are some trees, they are called pando trees in North America. Some are very famous near Utah, in Utah State and other states in the west of the USA, that are also 100,000 years old. Okay, so lifespans are very variable. And now for the first time, thanks to the sequence of the genome, we are sequencing the genome of the immortal jellyfish, the mortal jellyfish, the hydra, the mice, the shark, the clam, and we are discovering the limits of longevity, knowing first time that immortality already exists in biology. So it's not something hypothetical. It's not a dream. It's not metaphysics. It's not a science and
Okay,
technology, and
so
immortality
Jose
applies
Luis,
life.
if I may,
Remember,
if I may, because if from what I hear is okay, there is um, sufficient indications that this is going to be biologically possible. Not only that, you see that there is sufficient progress at increasing rate in the development of technologies to actually be playing with the telomeres, with the Japanaka factors or whatever. Progress is being made from different directions, not only these two, of course, but you see that. And then when do you think, so the question is, do you think that people of our age will live, let's not say immortal, but for 500 years? Do you think that is a reality? That longevity, escape velocity is actually going to be a reality for people born in the 50s, 60s, 70s of last century?
yes, actually, I talk about that in my book, Longevity Escape Velocity, that you mentioned. Longevity escape velocity is the idea that soon, very soon, in 5 years, we are going to gain 1 year per year we survive. So we get 1 year, 1 year. So we are basically becoming immortal, but still aging and still aging until 2045, when we are going to have rejuvenation technologies. So we talk about this and we give dates. The dates actually are mostly from my friend Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil, who
Yeah.
is an engineer from my alma mater, from MIT. He was also
We've talked
founder of
about
Singularity.
him. Yeah, we've talked about him and his book in this podcast in the past. So the
Yes,
singularity is near and everything. Yeah, of course.
absolutely. And the singularity is nearer, nearer.
Yes, 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 yes.
And he
So
maintains
how do
that,
you?
yes,
It's
in the
coming.
2030s, we will reach longevity escape velocity, and 2045, we will become immortal through biological rejuvenation. He was born in 1947. So he's basically, I think, yeah, 79 years. And he says it openly. He plans to reach longevity escape velocity in the next 5 years and become immortal by the year 2045. Even though, I repeat, he was born in the late 1940s. So there is chance, there is hope for all of us. And I also like to say, in 2045, when we reach rejuvenation technologies for everybody, that I will be younger than today. And I want to watch this podcast in 1945 to see how I was old today, because today I am older than I will be in
That
1945
is,
when we reach the singularity and immortality.
2045.
Jose. I think it's worth some context, because you know that the reason why we're doing this postcard is related to a book that was published. So it's in, and we have these videos. One of the first ones we released is actually an elderly woman going to a clinic, paying for rejuvenation and eternal life. And then in the video, you see the rejuvenation of this woman, which is exactly what you're talking about. Like, it goes through a number of, it's not immediate, it's not a magic pill, it's a biological process. So I find it very interesting, because this book was actually, it was published in 2019, but it was written basically like between 2007 and 2012, and then it was the re-editing. It's 900. It's that blue thing behind me. It's a big book. So it took a long time to actually. But all these ideas that we will be immortal forever are in there. So I think it's very, very interesting thing. But I was actually thinking, when I wrote the book, I thought it would be quite far in the future, and now I'm shocked, because reality is catching up with my book at a really high speed. And you see all these things, and because of course now we're talking about longevity, but we are also, there's other things that are in the book that are in reality,
Yes.
such as
Can I,
yeah, cryogenation. Yeah, Pablo, go on.
can I add something? Because I've been taking notes. I didn't want to interrupt Jose Luis, but I have like 5, 6 different things, but just exactly what you said. Just for more context, if someone just joined or is watching this as the first episode of the podcast, is the reason being is Pedro Juan wrote this book about what would happen if we achieve immortality. And I'm not it's not easy for me to make a huge leap of faith when it comes to novels or movies, and but I could buy that every step of the waves in the end of the 90s, everything was coherent, everything was logic. And yeah, you make this at some points you say, okay, I take that these technological advances happen. And then once we finished the book, I was researching, and I saw this interview to Jose Luis, and we're super lucky to be able to discuss the book that Jose Luis wrote, The Death of Death, which is in now more than 20 languages, and I'm reading it. I strongly suggest it to everybody. Super interesting. It's eye opening. And I wanted to ask you, Jose Luis, regarding your book and regarding all the things that are in common. You mentioned in the book the things about the death of death, la muerte de la muerte, the vision, because of course this is a topic in which many people are skeptical. Also in the scientific community, it's even risky to mention certain words like immortality or extreme longevity. One question that I have for you is, which argument of the skeptics would you be more do you think is the strongest one? And I also would like you to talk about this vision of, okay, people in the past, like 200 years ago, they wouldn't even dream of having a cell phone. Also to talk to give us your view on the implications that it could have in society. I know you talk about this space travel as well, like life outside planet Earth. But what if we achieve immortality before we achieve life to be able to be outside Earth? So sorry, I've made so many questions in once, but
Yeah. Well, first of all, some people don't even like to use the word immortality. And I think we should, because in science, cancer cells are called biologically immortal. This is how they are called in science. So we use the word biological immortality. Also, the germ cells that we all have for reproduction are also biologically immortal. And this is how they are called. And today, we believe, as I mentioned, that 4 billion years ago, when life appeared, it was biologically immortal, and that during most time of life in our planet, there was no aging, there was no programmed aging in
but
the
could it be a possibility, sorry, that aging was a mechanism from nature to regulate itself?
well, nature is experimented with evolution, and then there were some animals that appeared to age, which is okay, and some who didn't age that we still have alive today. So just like we have some animals with wings and some animals with more eyes or with more hands, we have animals that still don't age. So this is how evolution works. Not all life forms age, and not all life forms have eyes, etc., etc. So evolution is giving different opportunities, but we are learning from that. This is important. And what also people don't understand is that things are advancing now exponentially because of computing power advancing exponentially, which is called normally Moore's law. Because Moore, who was co-founder of Intel, he discovered that the power of computer doubled almost about 2 years, and the price decreased. And I lived this myself. When I was at MIT, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, these are the famous punch cards, the punch cards that we use to program, and we use this for memory. At MIT, this is basically 10 by 100, there were different sizes, but let's say 10 by 100, that is 1,000. This was 1K of memory. And once we made holes, you could not change the holes, so the memory cannot be reprogrammed. It could not be modified. And the first electromagnetic memories were created. And I also have an example here. This is the first type of floppy disk, 8 inches big, and also 1K, 40, 50 years ago. So I like to say we had 1K mechanical and 1K electromagnetic. In Spanish is 1K plus 1K makes 1 caca, 1 caca of memory 40 years ago when it was in MIT. But then technology began improving exponentially, and we moved from caca to this smaller floppy disk of 5 inches and a quarter, that is 512 cacas, 512 cacas. It's better caca, of course, and smaller. And then we had this even smaller floppy disk that was 1.4 mega. So we passed from to mega. And here I have a pen drive of 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte is a lot of memory. So in my lifetime, we have gone from caca to terabytes. Well, when we watch this podcast in 2045, we will remember caca, but it will not be this 1 caca. 1 terabyte will be the caca of the future. This is caca in 20 years because memories and computer power keeps on increasing exponentially. So instead of 1 terabyte, we are going to have millions of terabytes, billions of terabytes in smaller devices, even more powerful than our brain is today. So think about that. From caca to terabytes, and this improving. This is applied now to all sciences that can be digitized, because once you digitize, you fall in this exponential curve. And now medicine and biology can be digitized. And this is what is changing everything, because the human genome is 3 gigabytes. Our genome is 3 gigabytes, and this is 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. So if your genome is 3 gigabytes, I can fit 1 terabyte, 333 human genomes, and a little cat. So that you see, and now artificial intelligence comes into the play, because even 1 terabyte is a lot. Also 3 gigabytes, our genome does a lot for us, for our caca brains. We have caca brains. So 1 gigabyte is a lot to analyze, but not for AI. Quickly, as the Nobel Prize in chemistry in 2024 discovered. That was won by Demis Hassabis of Google DeepMind, who created a program called AlphaFold to understand how proteins are folded, the folding problem of proteins. And there are 100 million or 200 million proteins. And Google DeepMind AlphaFold solved it completely. Incredible. Just to fold 1 protein would take 1 PhD thesis of 1 human, 4 or 5 years to understand the folding of 1 protein. And AlphaFold solved all the millions of proteins immediately. So you see how fast this is moving. And from proteins now, AlphaFold and Demis Hassabis has created a new company. I highly recommend that you look into it. It's called Isomorphic Labs. And Isomorphic Labs says that they are going to solve all diseases. Check it out in the website, Isomorphic Labs, all diseases. And Demis Hassabis was asked, when will we solve all diseases with AI? And he said, probably in 1 decade. Imagine. And this is not a crazy guy. He got the Nobel Prize in chemistry for solving the protein folding. And he has not millions of dollars because he got the Nobel Prize. No. He gets billions of dollars from Google and some trillions of dollars to solve the aging problem. That is why we are so close to solve all diseases, and especially cancer. I think we will solve all cancers between 5 and 10 years. And why? I repeat, because now we can sequence the genome of the cancer cells and find the mutations that stop aging in cancer cells. We are very, very close to solve all cancers. And after solving cancers, we are going to solve all diseases, which I repeat is the goal of isomorphic labs and other companies and
Okay,
groups.
so
One
if
question.
if I may again interrupt, Jose Luis. So let's just step forward to move on onto the. Let us assume that, like, we're talking to Liz Paris, and she's also in this, and you probably have known her, and she has a very shining view of the future where immortality is a cheap treatment, rejuvenation is a cheap treatment, and when all this is cheap and available to everyone, how do you see society being affected? Just give it to us. I know what you think because I've read it, but give it to us, please.
Yes, Liz Parrish is a very good friend of mine for now a long time. We met first in 2015 before she was injected with the first gene therapies in humans. He's called Patient Zero. Patient Zero because she was the first human to have a gene therapy for biological rejuvenation. And at that time, she was injected with a telomerase as a gene therapy to become younger. And also, she has undergone 4 other gene therapies to make her younger. And this is an incredible experience with patient zero. But now we have patient one and patient two and patient three. We have already hundreds of people undergoing gene therapy. Most of these people are biohackers who want to experiment on their own and to see if they can stop aging and rejuvenate. And the results are absolutely incredible. Once we have even more cases, there will be a lot of literature to show that gene therapy can help to biologically rejuvenate. These therapies are yet not approved in the USA by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, or in Europe also by the European Medications Agency, or in other countries. So she had to go to Colombia. In Colombia, you can do this, and also in other medical paradises, medical heavens, where you can go and experiment on your own body some of these therapies. Anyway, so this is just beginning, and I think the results are incredible. And not only what she's doing, Liz Parrish, but other people. And again, now we have companies like David Sinclair's company called Life Bioscience, and they are rejuvenating eyes in humans this year. Eye rejuvenation in humans. So this is just beginning. We are going to see magic in the next few years. In fact, I
What
think
happens?
next
What
year we will
happens when
see.
it's there? Yeah, Jose Luis, what happens? So it's
Well,
socially. What happens when all it's here? How do you see things developing?
Well, we are going to stop aging and then rejuvenate. My goal is to be biologically 20 years of age, indefinitely, biologically 20 years. So my body would be like I was 20 years and I was at my prime in my physical body. However, my brain will keep on learning, improving, because it will be in good shape. I will not develop Alzheimer's. I will not develop Parkinson's, but I would keep on learning, experiencing, accumulating knowledge. And this is the goal, to have your brain at top knowledge and your body at age 20. That is the goal of most people working in this area. And that is what I plan to do. In 2045, I have to have my brain with lots of decades of experience, but my body with only 2 decades.
I have a couple of questions, Jose Luis. Um, have you ever been like? Do you think it's because I it could be like it's not an even process, not a democratic process. Like for example, Leith talks about it should be a democratic thing, you know, like should be accessible to everybody. This treatment, okay, it's keeping what would need to happen technically, which it would give us another whole podcast. Um, if that happens, do you think it would be distributed evenly among society, or do you think there's a risk that there would be like, you know, a new class of people, not differentiate the time only by money or economical power, but by biological power? Do you think that's what could happen? And another question that I have, have you related to this, have you ever been reached out by companies that want to keep it as a secret, and have you seen secrecy in this industry? Is there secrecy in this?
Well, actually, once these technologies are developed, they will eventually be free. Free. It will be part of social security in the countries. I write about that in chapter 5 of my book. I explain how much will it cost. And the answer is zero. Zero. This will be for everybody who wants it. People might not understand why, but let me give you an example. COVID-19. The vaccines cost billions, maybe even trillions of dollars to develop. But to the end user, to the patient, it was free. It was free. All the COVID vaccines for the users were free, even though it did cost billions, trillions of dollars to develop the different vaccines. At the end, when the technology was developed, the cost of the vaccines, depending on the vaccine, because there were different types of vaccines, they were between $2, the cheapest one, and $20, the most expensive ones. So they were not really expensive once we developed the technology. And COVID showed that when we have a big health issue facing humanity, we can act in a combined planetary way to solve it. So now I think that aging has to be the new COVID. Just like we basically fought against COVID throughout the planet for 2 years, now we need to fight against aging for the time we need so that we can accelerate this process. And I repeat, it will be free because we need to understand basic principles. We are very cheap to make. Humans, we are very cheap to make. And basically, as most people know, we are 2/3 water. Two parts of our body are water, and we are tap water. We are not expensive Perrier water or Evian water. No, we are tap water, 2/3 of us. The other third that makes us is the most common and cheap elements in the planet. Not only the hydrogen and the oxygen, but we have carbon, nitrogen, calcium, sodium, potassium. We are made of very cheap elements. A human being costs less than $100 in raw materials. So we are like basically biological machines that cost $100. And now that we are going into biotechnology, and even better, next decade into nanotechnology, nano that will let us manipulate atom by atom the structure of matter and the structure of our bodies, things are going to be down very cheap. Because if we only cost $100 or €100, the therapies to cure us are going to be $1 to $10. That is how therapies will cost. And again, that is what COVID vaccines cost. So that you see that these numbers are real. These numbers are real. These are not hypothetical numbers. So this will be available for everybody who wants it. And we are cheap machines, and the therapies will be cheap. And one more example so that people understand. Cancer discovers immortality. Every day in every person, we develop cancer continuously. And cancer does it without going to university. Cancer didn't go to MIT and it discovered immortality. Cancer didn't even pay $1 to become immortal, and it gets immortal. So immortality is not expensive, as cancer has discovered. You don't need to go to, you don't need to get $1 to become immortal. And ask cancer if you don't believe me.
So
would sorry.
yeah, go ahead, Pablo.
No, but I'm just. Have you thought about what would be the implications when it comes to our relationship of human relationship with death from a religious perspective, from a spiritual perspective, even from a creative perspective? Because that's the fear of death is what moves us to accomplish and strive for many of the things we fight for in life. We are if we become immortals, what would happen in those aspects? Have you thought about those implications?
Of course, of course. Half of my book is about that. My book has basically two parts. One is the science and the technology that will take us to immortality, and the other half is about the ethical, moral issues, even social, environmental, political issues, because this will change everything. This is the biggest revolution in history and the biggest dream of humanity, the biggest dream. In fact, when we go back to history, history begins with writing. Writing is the beginning of real human history. About 5,000 years ago, in Mesopotamia, the first book written by humans, almost 5,000 years ago, was about immortality. That is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a book about immortality. The second oldest book written in Egypt with hieroglyphic writing, different type of writing, the Book of the Dead, is also a book about immortality. So all cultures, since we know, wanted immortality. Immortality is the first dream of humanity, but we did not have the science and technology until now. Then religions appeared. Religions also appear about the common religions today. The oldest ones, 5,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. Christianity appeared about 2,000 years ago. Islam appeared 1,400 years ago. So religions came much later. But what is interesting is that religions offer you immortality, but in another time and in another place. And that is fine if we can be immortal in another time and in another place. But how about if we can become immortal here and now? This is a new possibility, not to wait for the future, different place, different time, but to become immortal here and now. And if you want to become immortal later on as well, in another place, in another time, you can do it. I mean, this is optional. As I say, immortality is optional. And if some people want to die, they can die. In fact, until now, everybody died biologically, humans, not immortal species. Okay, but humans until now died. So
But
it
do you
is.
think society could get like stalled in a place where, okay, of course they are afraid to die, they don't want to die, but then because they are immortal, they don't feel excitement about their day-to-day life or about
But this
the.
is a personal thing. If someone wants to die, let them die. I'm okay with it. You know, if you want to die, if you think you're going to get bored, okay, die. I will go to your funeral maybe. But most people will enjoy life. People will enjoy
Okay,
life because people will be biologically 20. If you are biologically 20, you enjoy life. You want to do things. You want to try
so
new things. You want to travel.
Jose Luis,
So this is what will happen. But if people want to die, let them die.
okay, one question then. Obviously, the immediate consequence of immortality in a normal um, animal population will be overpopulation and saturation of the resources of planet Earth. Now, there is your argument and other people's argument is that developed societies tend to have less children, right? So the only solution that we have, assuming that 10 billion is the limit of the Earth population, and everything is cheap, like immortality, people are not dying, rejuvenation. So by 2100, 2100, everyone is immortal. We have 10 billion people. So we have a planet without children and a planet without play. I don't know. Is that part of the image you've got of the future, an acceptable immortality by not having children? Children don't exist. Reproduction doesn't exist. Families don't extend. It's just immortal individuals living together an immortal, steady life. Is that your vision of the future?
Again, my vision might be different from your vision. You do what you want. If you want to die, you are welcome to die. If you want to have children, you can have children. People are different. There is not one common view.
No.
It is not that the
If you are
whole planet will
immortal,
be going one
no,
way.
Jose
In
Luis.
fact,
If
I
you,
foresee many people to want to die because some religions actually talk about dying as well, and they want to die to see the afterlife. That is okay, you
no,
know. So there is no
what I'm
common.
asking you, no, what I'm asking you is a demographic problem. If people
Yeah, no, this
decide
is not
not to
true.
die,
This is not true. When you
what
said
is?
that there is a limit of 10 billion people, that is not true. In
Okay,
fact,
so your
Malthus,
idea is that, yeah. So what's the alternative then? What's the alternative? Explain it.
well,
Like,
first
tell
of
me
all,
your vision.
you need to read The Death of Death. I explain it all here.
Come on,
But
give us
again,
a 5 minute advance.
yeah, 5 minutes because I have to go to a conference
I
now.
know. That's right.
But so again, uh, 230 years ago, Malthus, an economist in England, said it was the end because London had 1 million people, England had 10 million people, the planet had 1 billion, and it was impossible to have more people. And that is because we did not have technology. So now, actually, you said about a limit of 10 billion. That is not true. Absolutely
No,
not
it's an
true.
example. It doesn't
No,
matter what number. It
no.
doesn't
Well,
matter
but
if you say 100 million, because of exponential growth. It doesn't matter at what how you set the actual physical limit of the Earth. We're gonna get
yeah.
there very close, very quickly, if we have children and are
That's not
immortal.
true. That is
No,
not true. The planet, some extrapolations, people can believe we can reach 1 trillion, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have brains to solve problems, and we are going to begin colonizing the rest of the solar system. We are going to have in 10 years a base on the moon and a base on Mars. So this is not true. The lack of resources, as it was false when Malthus was alive, is false now. And I explained that in the book extensively. So I don't buy those arguments, but still, if they were true, and if that worries you, die. Then you
But
can die because then you are part
I'm
of the
not. No,
problem. You
you're
are not
getting me
part
wrong.
of the
You're getting me wrong, Jose Luis. What I'm saying is how we confront those demographic questions, and you have already said it. It's like you believe that through technology, that through space travel, we can expand the habitable universe and the capacity, holding capacity of the universe. That was my question, because obviously what I don't see is a world without children,
But you
because I
can
don't
have
think people
children.
like
No, that's not
I.
true. I don't like that argument. You can do whatever you want. We are going to have more options, more options. So I don't like those arguments because you will have more options. If you want to have children, you can have children. Okay. So don't say that. I'm not saying that. People will have more options. And the best option, the most important option, is the option not to die. And this has been the biggest dream of humanity since the beginning. And this is what we will be able to achieve in the next 2 decades. So we live in a time of incredible opportunity. We live between the last mortal generation and the first immortal generation for those who want to join immortality. In fact, I call people the deathist people die, and they will die, and that is okay, and the immortalist people who will continue carrying the human mission from this planet to other planets. So this is my point, and I explained that. I invite you all to come to Madrid. I organized the Longevity Summit Madrid, where we talk about these issues, longevitysummit.madrid. Welcome to Madrid. where we have our campaign, Stop Aging, Stop Aging. We are going to cure aging, and I am advocating we do it faster and faster. So I really have enjoyed this conversation very much, to open possibilities.
But you have to go.
Open possibilities.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Just one
Yeah,
just one
thank you so
note.
much.
Just one note before you leave, José Luis. I think you fundamentally have a similar view. I think once you read Pedro Juan's book, you'll find out. I think that it was more a question for you to give you the chance to explain this view about what would be the future once this come. And thank you very much. The thing is also, you think that it should be treated as but what you're saying, we should fight against it. It should be more research about it. We should treat it as a disease, and that would be your message, correct? People should know about this. People should be aware about the possibilities, and resources and investigation should be placed upon this. Is that a fair read? Is that the message you want to send as well?
Absolutely. Just like we want to cure cancer today, or we want to cure Alzheimer today, or we want to cure all chronic diseases, well, there is actually a very quick way to do it, which is cure aging. Aging is the mother of all chronic diseases. So it is not just curing cancer separately or Alzheimer's. What we need to cure is aging, the mother of all diseases and the enemy of humanity. Aging is the enemy of humanity. 90% of people in advanced economies die of age-related diseases. We die of aging, 90% of the people in the advanced countries. Of course, there are accidents. Of course, there is terrorism. Of course, there is climate change. Of course, there is malaria. Of course, there is AIDS. Of course, there are accidents. But all of those only kill 10% of the people. 90% of people die of age-related diseases. So this is the biggest problem for humanity. It is not terrorism, it is not religion, it is not wars, it is aging. Aging is what kills all of humanity, and that is why we need to work together to cure aging. Just like we stopped COVID, well, now we need to stop aging. So that is my message, and we are going to do it very soon. We are less than 2 decades away from curing aging and living indefinitely young. For those who want to, if some people want to die, let them die. You know, I have no problem with that. But I want to become immortal because we are close. And
That's
this has
clear.
been not my dream, the dream of humanity, since we know. So I know it's also your dream, and probably the dream of many people who are watching this. So that's my message. Don't die, as my friend, don't die, because we are between the last mortal generation and the first immortal generation. And we are going to see more changes in the next 2 decades than in the last 2,000 years. Incredible. More changes in 20 years ahead than in the last 2,000 years. So my message is, like my Trekkie friends say, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. José Luis, I want to thank you. I know you are in a rush. We're keeping you. Thanks a million for your time. Thanks a million for speaking so bluntly. I think it's something brave and something to be grateful for, is to speak with such clarity. So thank you very much, and I hope to be in touch, to have more chances to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. And we'll send you a copy of the book, José Luis, because I think you will see many things that
You will love it.
that you will relate to.
Love it.
You will
You will
relate
love
to.
You will love it. You will
Yeah.
love it. And I'm finishing yours,
Anyway.
you know.
So
very
thank you
much.
so much, and
All right. Bye.